Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Career Chats video. My name is Joan Dixon, and I am the Director of Student Programs at Gulf Coast South Area Health Education Center. What you can see on your screen right now is our pathway programs for students. You can see we have a long and winding road. Starts with health career presentations. You can find that video on our website. Health career chats like the one we're bringing to you today. We have a full video library so you can check out many different careers to see if they interest you. Remember, there are over 300 different careers just in health for you to choose from, so you need to do a little research. We also provide health career summer camps. I work with HOSA clubs at the various high schools in our 4-county service area of Charlotte, DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota County in Florida. We have a REACH intern program, and I'm getting ready to introduce you to one of my interns in just a moment. And then we have our AHEC Scholars Program. All of these programs are free of charge to students, and you can see my contact information at the bottom of the screen. That includes our website, my email address, and our phone number, so you can get a hold of me to ask more questions about all of our free REACH student programs to help you choose if you want to have a future in the health careers. It is my pleasure to now introduce to you one of my interns for this semester, Gabriela Hernandez. Gabby, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby Hernandez. I'm a medical student at Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine here in Bradenton, Florida. And like Joan said, I am a public health intern at Gulf Coast South AHEC. I'm happy to introduce our speaker for today is Dr. Hernandez. He's a board certified family practitioner who currently practices in Fredericksburg, Virginia. First, I'd like to start off by sharing a short introductory video about what family physicians do every day.
What's the difference between family medicine doctors and internal medicine doctors or internists? I think a lot of you guys might be wondering about that. You've asked me this question, and I know for years before getting to medical school, I wasn't quite sure what the difference was and how someone would choose whether they go to an internist or a family doctor. Now, you guys know I'm a family doctor. I'm your friendly family doc, Dr. Jen Cardle. I'm a board certified family practice doctor. I see patients. Yeah, I've been in practice for 13, maybe going on 14 years or something like that. Crazy how time flies. I was born to be a family doctor. It is my heart and soul because I love what I do. I love the diversity of patients and ages and families I get to see and conditions, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what I'm going to talk to you about, which is the differences between internal medicine and family medicine and which one you should see. And by the way, there are a lot of similarities. So let's start with the similarities, okay? So to become a family practice doctor or an internist, you first go to college and then you go to med school and then you do a residency. The residency is probably what you guys are used to seeing on shows like Grey's Anatomy and Scrubs and so many different shows that talk about and feature what it's like to be a resident. Typically long hours, lots of patients, it's stressful, it's tough, it's hard, lots of growing pains. That's what residency is. And the length of time that you're in residency, that's really the on-the-job training for being a doctor. See, when you go to med school, it's like the book stuff, right? You're in class, you do get some on-the-job training, but you're a medical student. You're not actually a doctor yet. When you do your residency, that's when you're actually working, apprenticing, so to speak, as a doctor, and you're training on the job. So some similarities is that family medicine residency is 3 years, internal medicine is 3 years as well. Now, both family medicine and internal medicine have components of residency that are hospital-based and what we call outpatient-based, meaning you're seeing patients in the office, not in a hospital. But typically, internal medicine doctors see more patients in the hospital. And we often, they are sometimes internists only work in hospitals. Most of their training is in the hospital, although they do outpatient training as well. Family medicine, we train in both places, but we are typically thought of as more outpatient docs, although there are family doctors that work solely in the hospital too. And let's see here, both of us can specialize. Both family medicine doctors and internal medicine doctors can go on to do extra training after the 3 years. Internal medicine doctors become, they become all sorts of things, nephrologists and cardiologists and all sorts of things like that. That is a pathway for that. Family medicine, we can specialize as well, but it's just not the same specialty offerings. And most of us as family doctors work as family doctors. Now, let me tell you the big difference, okay? The biggest difference between a family practice doctor and an internal medicine doctor in terms of you is that family medicine doctors, we see people of all ages. That's right. We see people from birth to death. We see babies, we see kids, we see adolescents, teenagers, we see young adults, we see adults, we see elderly folks. Internal medicine doctors see adults only. That is primarily the biggest difference and what you should keep in mind when you're choosing a doctor. Now, we can both handle pretty much all of your medical concerns for the most part, but the question is the age and which one you fall in. So it's okay to go either to an internist or a family doctor. When we say family medicine, oftentimes we as family doctors literally do treat whole families. I have families where I see the aunt and the uncle and the kids and the grandparents and the cousins and whatever. And it's not that internists don't do that either, but remember, they only see adults.
So like the doctor in the video just said, family physicians are one of the few specialties that get to watch a child grow up, become a teenager, become an adult, and then have a family of their own. Family physicians are in a very fortunate position to be able to take care of every age group from the neonates to the elderly. They deal with a large variety of illnesses and diseases and become a very integral part of one's healthcare team. Like many other types of doctors, family physicians need to be great listeners and great communicators. Today, we are going to learn more about the specialty of family practice. Welcome, Dr. Hernandez. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start off with my first question for you. If you could explain what your job description is in your own words.
Excellent. You guys can see me. Maybe I introduce myself first. My name is Rafael Hernandez. I have practiced family practice for about 30 years. One thing, when I was a resident, the other doctor was talking about the 3-year program that also the internists do. I decided to also do geriatric medicine, and I did a couple of years of geriatric medicine at the University of Minnesota. I was born in Dominican Republic. I did part of my medical school, or most of it, in the Dominican Republic, but then came to America and did my last 2 years of clinicals in Connecticut. Then went and did a 3-year program in family practice, and then 2 years of geriatrics. And currently I'm in my 30th year of practicing family medicine. So my initial job was at a private practice. I was one of the partners. Most recently, as America has changed the medicine background, we joined a hospital practice. I am in an ambulatory setting for a major hospital in town called Mary Washington. So my daily routine at the office is seeing patients from 8 to 5 most days, except for a day off during the week. And I also have shared a little bit administration because I want to be sure that my partners and my fellow physicians practice medicine the right way. So I belong to a few committees in the hospital, and I also volunteer in a free clinic.
Thank you. What would you say the atmosphere is like at your office?
The office is great because we've been practicing together for many, many years. So my colleagues, I have 3 other doctors. I also work with a nurse practitioner and also work with a PA. And then we hire nurses and medical assistants, and we have the receptionists, and we all really practice as a family. I think that that's a incredible good things of family medicine is that you're kind of treat everybody as a kind of family environment, and at the same time we try to do quality care for the patients.
That's wonderful. What kind of patients do you work with in your career?
I see everything from babies to the very old. My oldest patient right now, I think, is 104. My youngest patient right now is 2 weeks old.
So what would you say a typical day is like? You go in around 8. About how many patients would you see? Are you typically very busy?
Well, because I am kind of a senior in medicine, my practice is very full. I actually, it's hard for me to see new patients because I've been practicing for so long. But now that I'm in the practice setting of the hospital, I see between probably 18 to 22 patients a day. I start at 8 in the morning, and then I break for lunch around 11:30ish, 11:45, and then I start seeing patients again in the afternoon. Nothing is really set on paper because sometimes the patient can be complicated and throw a little bit of schedule off. But most of the time, it is an 8 to 5 job with patient care, and then come the fun part that doing prescription refill, paperwork, and blah, blah, blah. And that might take a couple of hours, depending.
How many hours would you say you work a week then? Are you working more than 40 hours a week, less than 40 hours?
Oh, a lot more than 40 hours. I will say probably about 80 hours a week or something in that round. Maybe a little less than 80, maybe 70 to 80 hours. Yeah.
Do you think that affects your personal life and your home life?
Yes and no. Because as a family practitioner, I have a lot of knowledge about nutrition and the importance of exercise and the importance of family time. It becomes a matter of pretty much being good at time management a little bit. Like my regular routine starts at 5:30 in the morning. I go to the gym first, and then after the gym, I come home, I have breakfast, I shower, I go to work. And typical, I have the advantage that I can finish the work at home. So after I'm done with the last patient and take care of the important things of the day, I come home, and then I may kind of break a little bit to do something outside. And then I come in, and I have an office computer that is connected to the hospital, and I do all my paperwork and finish my notes and finish the day. But I do kind of take care of myself in the sense of, if I want to be a good physician, I need to kind of set the example.
That's wonderful. It sounds like you have a very balanced lifestyle. That's very important. If you could share with us, if you don't mind, what type of starting salary could someone expect coming out of residency for family medicine?
That fluctuates in terms of, there's a lot of different types of practice styles that you can go in as a family practitioner. You can be an academician and teach residents. You can work for a research company. But in my setting, which is in ambulatory family medicine, I would say that the salary is around probably about $200,000 a year for a new intern coming in out of family medicine. And again, I'm just talking on the northeastern America, because I imagine that rural medicine may pay a little more or a little less, depending of the lifestyle. South tend to pay a little less than the north. So, but average will be probably between 175 and 200 to start these days.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm just going to switch to a more personal question. Why did you decide to pursue this career?
I love people. I am very outgoing person. I am very social. I have the influence in my family with other members being doctors. Both of my parents also have careers. My father was an oral surgeon, and my mother also have a doctorate degree in pharmacy. And at home, my pediatrician was probably the most influential in me pursuing the career. I used to love to go to their office. I used to love to talk to his nurse, and he was a very good friend of my father. So I decided at a very young age, I used to say that I would be a doctor, probably of what I have memory, probably by age 8, I knew that my calling was to be a physician. Now, when I got to the point of making the decision, should I be an internist? Should I be a family medicine doctor? Should I do a specialty? I think that I love so much the fact that family medicine is so broad and it's never boring. When I was in my internship making decisions, I realized that if I were to be a specialty person, I will be seeing the same thing over and over and over and over. So being a family doc, you never know what's going to be behind the door. You establish lifelong relationships. Nothing is more fun right now for me to see my babies now having babies in their own. I see now grandparents that were my regular adults at one point, and now they're enjoying that part of life. So it's a very fulfilling when you can see so many different things and make your everyday kind of fun. So I think that family medicine was the right call for me.
If you could pinpoint one thing that you would say is the most satisfying about your career, what would that be?
I think that is when the patients tell me, please don't retire. They ask me almost every day, I will say 2 to 3 people. They tell me how much they love me. They said, Dr. Hernandez, you're not just my doctor, you're my friend. Some of the people that are very religious said to me that they had probably more confidence, and sometimes they said as much confidence as their pastors or their priest. So it's a very very good feeling that I can't even put into words. When somebody before they leave the office, that I overheard them saying, I just love Dr. Hernandez. He's such a great man. He's such a good doctor. So that just gives you a sensation of, man, this is worth to do no matter what.
If you had to say that there was something that wasn't as satisfying about your career, could you name something?
I will see the amount of time that involve. So right now I'm doing entirely ambulatory medicine, but before medicine became a digital technology, before we went in electronic medical records like we do now, I also had a hospital practice. So my life was a little bit more cumbersome because I would need to go to the hospital, do rounds, go to the practice to see patients. Then I would go back to the hospital at the end of the day. So it was a lot of back and forth and changing your hats many times. So at that time, the amount of time that you invest on caring for people, I think, because it took away a lot of sacrifices then and still now. Sometimes I cannot go to some events when the children were doing, sports. A lot of time I was on call. I needed to go in to the hospital, and I didn't get to see a lot of the, the games, or my friends had parties that I couldn't attend, or I was having a good time at a party and I got a page and call, and I needed to go in and see somebody at the hospital. So that's kind of the flip side of what we do, that sometimes you need to be available, and you never know when an emergency or a true emergency will come.
Well, thank you for sharing those points with us. I know you already touched on it a little bit, but if you could explain a little bit more about your pathway to the education, getting your doctorate degree, and any extra training that you needed to get to where you are now.
Oh, certainly. Well, as a foreign grad, I grew up, like I said, in the Dominican Republic. My initial decision was to train in America and then go back to the island and bring my knowledge there. But I fell in love when I was here in America and had my children in America. And their mom was a little bit scared of having the children being in a third developed country and being raised, if they were getting sick or opportunities, etc. And by that time, when I met her and made the decision to marry, I was a lot more Americanized in terms of lifestyle. So I made the decision to stay in US, to be able to stay here and even to come here and validate my training. I needed to take boards that are called the ECF and GIMS, where was a very challenging thing at that time, because I did the foreign boards change right when I was ending my schooling. And then I needed to again re-study the basics to kind of validate my first 2 years. And then I needed to do the clinical 2 years more. And then to be able to moonlight, which a lot of the young residents moonlight in Connecticut, going into New York and things like that. I needed to take another license that used to be called the Flex, that gave me the ability to practice medicine in any state in America. And after doing all of that studying and then doing the residency training, I opted, like I said, to go for a little bit of more training in internal medicine in a way. And then I did the geriatric fellowship. That is one of the shared specialty that you can do as internal medicine can, do geriatrics, 2 years of fellowship. And I did that at the University of Minnesota. That was the largest school with residents, because I also had a passion for teaching. So when I was there in Minnesota, I did a little bit of faculty development, and I was teaching medical students and had a blast with them. And then when I decided to go in private practice and came to the practice that formerly was named Rapajano Family Physicians. In that practice, I also pursue some of my teaching. I used to get students from UVA and VCU, and they were in their 3rd and 4th year. And I used to be one of the doctors that will take the students home for a week, and then they will shadow me into my very personal life and trying to inspire them to go into family medicine. So that's pretty much it. I mean, once you finish your start and decided this is what I'm going to be, then I obviously use a lot of my training as a geriatrician in a daily basis, because American is growing and there is a lot of elder people now. But I never lost my sense of being a family physician, and I wanted to have a single specialty practice and be solely a family doctor. I will not call myself, I'm a geriatrician, because like I said, I see all kinds of children, adults, adolescents, women health, elderly people. So a little bit of occupational medicine, because sometimes people get injured at work, and we also deal with that. So it's a great specialty overall.
Thank you so much. That's a very exciting story. Dr. Hernandez, could you just move your camera down just a little bit?
Is that good?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Well, we are almost done here. I just have a few more questions for you. In terms of your medical education, was it very expensive? How did you end up paying for that? Did you take out loans like you do nowadays?
Yes. Sorry. I was kind of lucky. Like I mentioned, not that my parents were wealthy, but my parents put emphasis in education. And I was lucky to they funded my education entirely. So I kind of have the advantage that I needed, that I see when I see here now in America, how things are with student loans. And thankfully, I don't have any student debt. So my parents funded my education entirely. I was had the ability to study and do my studying without needing to work and do a little bit here and a little bit there. So yeah, it was funded by my parents, and I'm very thankful to them for that. I think that education is probably the most important legacy that you can leave a child. So I put that on my conversations with those parents that are coming in to, their children are ready to finish high school. I always kind of encourage the parents to do all they can do to help the child when they're in school. And then when I see the seniors that are making decisions, I also kind of tell them, please don't go and do detailing of cars and things like that. Trading education is good, but if you can have a college degree, that's probably the best thing that you can have. Nobody can take that away.
Wonderful. And if there was somebody, one of your patients, that really had an impact on your life, is there any stories you'd like to share with our students?
Somebody that have an impact on me, or somebody who I impacted? Which,
we could do both.
okay, well, I have
Maybe with a patient first.
the patient, I have a young man who I met maybe when he was 4 years old or 3 years old. They moved here to town and they became my patients. And like me, he was a pretty fun kid that would come to the office, and the nurses loved him when he was little, and we saw him through his high school. And then one day I saw his father, and the father told me, my son is trying to be a doctor like you. He liked you that much. And I was like, oh, really? And then, the kid took like a year off in between school and went someplace around the world, came back, and now he's in DO school out in Tennessee, and he's about to finish. He's actually a senior this year. So I don't know if he's gonna do family medicine, because since he left to school, he's doing the student health more than me. I don't do a lot of, but I do see the parents, and they know that I kind of influence his child a little bit into his decision. So that was pretty fulfilling. And the other way around, I don't think that I have just one story. And I was trying to think, what story impacted me the most. And I think that was perhaps, sometimes you develop a very close relationship with families, and they want you to go to their kids' birthdays, and they want you to go to their weddings, and they, you try to avoid developing a very close physical relationship with them to that level. But it happens that you become friends to them, and they see you, they want you in their weddings, they want you here and there. And most of the time I need to say no, because I don't have the time to do that. But also there is a little fine line between we're friends and I'm your doctor, and I don't want either way to take advantage of that relationship. But it happened one time that I have one of these dear friends that wanted me so much to be the delivery doctor of her sister's child. And I, at that point I was still a resident. I was in my second year of residency training, going my third. And I tried to tell her that, being so many doctors that were OBGYNs in town, why she wanted me, who was still a resident, that I wasn't even, no. And I said, no, I don't want me to be the doctor. But she insisted. And I became the doctor through the pregnancy, because, we do, I don't do right now OBGYN, but that is an option to a family practitioner. You can do OB and GYN. But I remember the lady going in labor on a Saturday at 1 in the morning, and I wasn't on call, but I was friends with them too. So next thing is I'm getting a knock in my door, and the door, middle of the night, 1 or 2 in the morning. And I was like, so who's there? And I, opened the door, and she's like, get dressed, we need to go. My sister-in-law, she's in the hospital. You need to deliver that child. And I'm like, are you serious? So I got in, got dressed, went into the hospital. She was still in labor, but not yet crowning or anything. But I remember feeling a little bit uneasy that I have not only interrupted the regular routine of the, the person that was on call, but this specific patient had a little bit of a complication during the delivery, and the attending who was doing the delivery, crazy as it could be, she had gone in a date that she was a single woman, and she had met a man who she eventually married. But at the time that everything was going on the delivery room, she was still at a party or out with her boyfriend, and the nurses were calling her hysterically to come and deliver the child with me, because I needed to have the supervision. And next thing is the baby come very abruptly. I have a third-year resident that kind of was the fallback with us, and she had a little bit of postpartum bleeding and things that I didn't experience at that point. But at the end, we had a very healthy baby. Her husband had a little bit of an anxiety disorder, and he was also my patient. And so I was running between the woman delivering the baby and in another room, there was the husband kind of in a panicky stage because he was to be a father, and he would hear his wife screaming, having the baby. It was kind of a crazy scenario. But at the end, everybody was happy. Baby came, everything was forgotten. I was loved to death. And then a year later, I said, well, I'm going to Minnesota, so I cannot be your baby's doctor anymore, because I'm not going to practice in Connecticut. And they all wanted for me to stay there. But it was kind of those things that I kind of learned. Hey, be careful trying to be too friendly to these people. Set your boundaries. Don't, because truly the patients love you so much that they get confused on the doctor advice and the family friendly, you can be my friend, let me go a little beyond that, I want you all the time with me. So as family practitioners, we tend to be looked as such. The patient goes into a specialty doctor, a cancer doctor, and they know that that doctor is treating them for cancer. But when they're dealing with a family doctor that treats you for everything, and they are thankful and they trust you for all their care, it comes a time where these emotions kind of cross the barrier. So you need to be a doctor with good sense of, hey, medicine here and friendship here, and run them parallel.
All right, last question, Dr. Hernandez. So if you had any advice for students who are interested in going into medicine, any words of wisdom you can impart on them at this point in their lives, what would that be?
I would say keep the eyes in the goal of becoming a doctor. It is a very lengthy career, especially if you have a specialty interest. It takes a long time to get there. But I think as a student, you don't realize what a huge impact you will have in a person's life. And like we talked at the beginning, the feeling of, wow, I did something for someone. The feeling of, when you have a new baby in your hand with a new mom that doesn't realize what a miracle just happened, and she needs that help all through until the baby is now crawling and growing. And when you have, a woman who's been married to a husband for 67 years, and then suddenly the husband dies, and she's lost in this world of loneliness, and they come to you and you give them the advice, and you know that eventually she will do okay. Or when you see somebody who lost a child, or somebody who go through divorce, or somebody who suddenly out of the blue can't deal with the stress of daily life, and they go into depression and anxiety, and you deal with those things every day. The feeling when the dust settle and the person said to you, thank you for changing my life, thank you for your advice, is something that have no price. Is the best thing. So that's all I can say to the students. Hey, it's a tough career. It's a lot of sacrifices. It's a lot of I'd rather be at a party, but at the very end, nothing changes. And it's a good lifestyle, and you make enough money where you don't worry much about, the house payment. You don't worry much about, hey, can my kids go to private school? Hey, can I help my kids when they're in college to pay for their apartments or pay for this or that? I mean, there is not a lot of monetary worries, but eventually, but that can be also a little bit of for the student to know that they're not going to have a life of worry for the things that normally a lot of people worry about on a daily basis. But then they're going to have all of this satisfaction as human beings that are unparalleled. The best thing.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Hernandez, for being here with us today and answering all of my questions. I truly enjoyed hearing about your journey and your story, and I believe this interview will give the students a better understanding of what it means to be a family physician.
Great. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you so much for having me. My apologies that I look a little crazy.
No worries. I want to thank both of you for joining me. I mean, this is a Sunday. The audience watching this right now has no idea that you all took time out of your busy weekend with your families to join us and do this recording. Thank you. I do appreciate it. I love hearing your stories. I've been doing this for a long time, and the stories are always fantastic because I want these students to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly about these careers so they can make an informed decision that they want to, pursue this in the future. And I want to ask Gabby to do a point of clarification because Dr. Hernandez, you mentioned that young gentleman was going to go to DO school. And some students may not understand the difference between a DO, a doctor of osteopathic medicine, and an MD, a doctor of medicine. And Gabby, you're going to an osteopathic medical school. Can you tell the students watching the difference between a DO and an MD?
So essentially, it's the exact same thing. You still have either MD or DO. That's all that's different. After your name, you do the 4 years and you can go into any specialty as you please. The only difference is that we focus more on, I would say holistic medicine is the best way to describe it. We focus on healing the body from within and doing manipulations with the body to heal certain disease processes. So we get a little bit extra training in our medical school journey in an extra field where we can apply that to everyday diseases. So we just have a little bit extra of training. However, everything is completely the same. You learn the same material, you go through the same process, the 4 years, applying to residency, doing your rotations, all that jazz. So there's truly not too much of a difference. It's just a little bit of the extra training and then just the different schools as well applying. But other than that, all the same.
Thank you very much for explaining that so the kids know, which route they want to take, DO or MD. And thank you both again for joining us here today. I do welcome your expertise, and I'm sure the students are learning a little bit of something about what it takes to be a family physician. So thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Thank you,
You're very
Gabby.
welcome.
Thank you,
Students,
Joan.
You guys have a
remember,
good day.
thank you so much. Remember, look
Bye.
at this screen, how you can find us down there, kids, if you want to learn more about our programs.
All right. Great. Thank you.